Hey there, Granger family. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to sit outside today as we do our walkthrough of today's events for Holy Week. That's just too nice not to be outside. Today is Wednesday of Holy Week, and today's kind of a quiet day, at least for Jesus. Jesus today, there's two main events that happen today, and that is that Jesus continues his teaching in the temple, but secretly and quietly we have the rulers and religious leaders plotting Jesus' death. So let's take a look at those passages. The first is from Luke chapter 21, starting in verse 37. It says this, that every day Jesus was teaching in the temple, but at night he went out and lodged on the mount called Olivet. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the temple to hear him. So Jesus is coming to the temple in Jerusalem and teaching the people and teaching them things from a place of authority. Jesus, of course, would know. And of course, this unsettles some of the religious leaders at the time. And after Jesus has done his teaching, he retreats out of the city where it's less dangerous for him specifically, and he stays out in a little town, a little area called Bethany. But it says during this time as well, Mark tells us it was 2 days before the Passover, that the religious leaders meet to have a secret meeting to figure out how to get rid of Jesus. And we find that story in Matthew chapter 26, verses 3 to 5. It says this, Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas. He'll show up later in our story as well. And plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. So we have here the chief priests and the elders, basically what would make up part of, if not all of, the Sanhedrin, the ruling body of the Jewish leaders. And they met in, it says, Caiaphas's palace, which is pretty much his residence. Obviously, the religious leaders in that day were very wealthy and very high esteemed and had a lot of political as well as religious power. And so they gathered secretly, and it says they gathered to figure out how they could kill him. Now, these are the religious leaders, the church leaders of the day, figuring out how they can kill Jesus, because he has turned the religion of the Jews on its head, at least the way they were setting it up. And so they were looking for ways to get rid of Jesus, but they said they couldn't do it during the feast. Now, Passover initiates the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which then would be a week-long feast. And so they feared that because everybody we just read was coming to the temple to listen to Jesus teach, and they loved it, if they were to try to arrest him publicly and take him away and have him killed, they feared they would have a riot on their hands. And of course, being ruled more by their own desires than any strong convictions at all, they decided to wait until after the Feast of Unleavened Bread, when most people would have left the city and gone back to their hometowns, and as things settled down, they could then capture Jesus and have him killed in some way so that they could then retain their power. But one thing that really sticks out to me about this is how they meet these men who think they have some sort of power, yet we are reading from Scripture that God had this completely planned before the beginning of time. While they meet and think they are in control, God is actually the one in control of the events, and Jesus knows that. And I believe that's what gives Jesus the ability to still teach, knowing that his time is coming soon. And I just often think and wonder, what was the spiritual world doing at this time as well? This must have been such a thick time of tension, not only physically between the popular people and the religious leaders and Jesus, but also in the spiritual realm with the angels and the demons, knowing that this was going to be the climax of human history on which salvation and redemptive history would turn. This was a very important time, and we see that while people were planning to get rid of Jesus, God was in control the whole time. So that's what happened on Wednesday of Holy Week, and so we'll see you tomorrow to give you the next events that happened on our journey through Holy Week. Goodbye.